Warning, this podcast contains explicit sexual language and should only be listened to at work if you're looking for an excuse to connect with your HR representative. Additionally, all mentions of the word women include cis and trans women. For my friends who are genderqueer, gender fluid, figuring it out, anything in between, and feel like this conversation is also important for you, you are welcome here.
Will you open up with me? These pages, they can feed your innermost desires. Do you feel inspired? Are you getting what you need? Are you coming curiously? A secret safe with me. And here you can simply be yourself. Sweet romance. Come on in, come on in, come on.
Hi, y'all. This is Jace, she, they, and you found Jace Reads Romance, a community dedicated to empowering women about sex and sexuality through the reading of romance novels. This week is another wrap-up of what I read in the month of June. There are 21 books on this month's list, which, if you follow me on social media, is a pretty small list for me, or has been. And I want to say that I'm really happy with the number of books that I read. And this is not to shame anyone who doesn't work in books full time as I do. This is my job, to read books, and my time every day is allotted for that. So if you read one book a month and that is all of your free time filled with that book, I am so glad for you that you read one book a month. Things that were happening in my life a few months ago were some not great mental health things. And I took a lot of my self-care into reading books, which caused its own set of problems. So going from reading 30 books in a month to 21 books in a month, for the perfectionist in me, feels like a letdown. But for the mental health aspect of my life, is actually a huge, huge improvement. So here are the 21 books that I read in June. The first book I read in June is Say You'll Be Mine by Naina Kumar. And this book was number one pink, but the unbelievably brief synopsis: fake dating across the country, Indian expectations.
There's so much to unpack just from that.
I know. And for API month, I was really plowing through a lot of the physical books that I had, and this was one of my physical books. So I had read quite a few stories with a main character or both main characters having an Indian cultural background and living that life. So it was super interesting for me in that moment to be able to go, ooh, what was the same as Dating Dr. Dill, or what was different than, the 3 Holidays and a Wedding, or what was the other one that I read? The Trouble with Hating You. So I'd read quite a few of them very close together. This one is long distance. The two main characters, they are long distance. They end up having an arranged meetup and getting fake engaged. And it was really fun. I loved actually the long distance, because this is going to be so weird for me. Don't get me wrong, I love some spice. There's a one bed trope in this book, but because so much of their interaction was long distance, it meant that what we saw from them first was the relationship that they built together. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was really fun for me. So if that is a trope that you love a one bed, you love a fake dating, you're looking for more Desi romance, I highly recommend this one. And the cover is pink. I know. King of Battle and Blood by Scarlett St. Clair. I was super excited because I like Scarlett St. Clair. I'd read her Hades and Persephone books. Mm-hmm. I've read the first 2 or 3 from Hades. Not from Hades' side, actually. I've read the first from Hades, but the first 2 from Persephone as audiobooks. And so I listened to King of Battle and Blood. Here is the synopsis: fantasy vampire romance with past lives bullshit.
Oh, God. The bullshit
Yeah.
says a lot.
Okay. This is my opinion, and I know there's a sequel and maybe it plays into it, but like the whole past lives thing that happens in this book feels completely unnecessary to me. And are we okay with spoilers? Sephie, are you okay with me spoiling things? Friends, if you don't like this, I would suggest, skip forward a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But so it's fantasy vampires, not in this world, totally different lore. Loved that. Our FMC is a warrior. She's a princess, but she's trained as a warrior. So she is badass. She holds her own. She's got so much going for her. And when she is married to and then leaves with the vampire king to go back to his country, she starts having these weird dreams and memories. And it turns out she is the reincarnation of the woman he loved who was murdered, for whom he then prayed to the goddess who turned him into the world's first vampire for. And honestly, I don't care. Because everything we hear about that other person, she's a witch, she's calm, she's meek, I didn't like that. I didn't feel like it enhanced the story in any real way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm curious if you've read the second book, does that aspect of their relationship come into play more? Because for me, it just felt really frustrating. And though it does answer the question of why she goes, I will never have you in my bed. And then 2 seconds later, but I'm horny. Look, you're welcome to change your mind at any point. That is totally up to you. However, every single time you bone your husband, it's, I don't want you. Okay, but really dick me down.
Ew,
it didn't feel good to me.
Yeah, I get that. That feels a little awkward and weird.
It was very awkward. Very awkward, very weird, but I love a vampire. Loved the interpretation of vampires in this world. So that's all. I mean, I'm always going to say yes to a vampire.
I know.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Book number 3, The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. This was my first Ashley Poston. I know this was her first one. And before I give you the actual synopsis, I will apologize for how I felt about this book, because I thought when I picked it up, I don't know why. I don't even know where I bought it. I thought I bought it at the Ripped Bodice. I thought it was in the queer section. I will not put that on the Ripped Bodice because I believe in them and I believe in my faults. I thought it was a queer story. It is not a queer story. It's not. If I'd actually read the back of the book, I would have known that. But for some reason, I don't know if there's a queer book I don't know if there's a queer book that looks like it, but I was so excited in June. Physical book number 2, because I guess number 1 that I started, because Say You'll Be Mine, I started in May. But book number 1 that I picked up and was about to read, queer story, gay pride, love it. And it was not.
I feel like that's the equivalent of being at work and you're like, yeah, I get to go home at this time. And you find out, no, I get to leave 2 hours later. Like, I feel like that's the equivalent.
Yeah. Except you really like your job, because it was a great book. Okay. Actual synopsis. Ghostwriter dealing with the death of her father finds her new editor is a ghost.
Like an actual ghost? Like a spook?
An actual ghost. Like an actual ghost. Oh, she sees ghosts. Sorry. She actually sees ghosts.
Okay.
She does. Like, she's a ghost writer and she sees ghosts.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
You know what? Sometimes I have warned you. If I haven't warned you yet, put this at the beginning. Warning, these synopses are going to be laughably short. They will miss many, many things. If you're looking for actual context, do not use this podcast.
Okay, so she's a ghostwriter and a medium, apparently.
She sees ghosts. She and her father both saw ghosts. Her father owned and was a mortician. They owned a funeral home in her hometown. She goes back to, deal with his death, which it's so long.
Oh, no.
I know. Okay. So that's like my personal thing. So she's in her hometown, and then the spirit of her new editor shows up, and he is there supporting her through this horrible week. And she is convinced that the reason he hasn't moved on is because her book is late. And it was another one of those things like The Long Distance. This wasn't like The Mediator by Meg Cabot where they could touch. They couldn't touch. He's non-corporeal.
Okay.
So they just had discussions and were with each other. And they grew closer and they connected. And there's a twist that I called on page 111 before page 111. But that's when I wrote the note of like, I'm calling this bitch. It's also I know. It's also incredibly light on the spice. I'd say like 0.5 because they have sex, but like not really because
they can't touch.
Not well described. No, but they do have a really fun conversation about how important consent is, especially when they're like kind of jokingly talking about writing sex scenes and how would you write this moment if we could touch. And I think he says like, can I kiss you? And she goes, ooh, consent, so sexy. And I'm like, yes, it is. It is. It is. So I really liked it. I've heard good things about the rest of her books. She just had a book come out last month. So if you read it or you're looking for a little magical realism in your books, Dead Romantics was lovely. King of Pride is next, book number 4 by Anna Huang. I was disappointed. Here is the synopsis. Secret heiress and open billionaire secretly date, and the chemistry is lacking.
Oh, ooh.
I know. So I loved King of Wrath. I did not love Twisted Love. I really liked King of Wrath. It's what kept me going with Anna Huang. I enjoyed Kai so much in King of Wrath. And I felt like he was just lackluster. And these two made dumb decisions and then were surprised and annoyed by the fallout from those dumb decisions. Isabel's a bartender at the super fancy club he's a part of. And they're not allowed to date. It's against policy.
Right.
But then they start dating and she gets fired and they're all like, what? No, you knew exactly what was going to happen. She's a secret heiress. She's kind of hidden from her family. Like they've never really shown her face from her family's money or whatever it is. And she doesn't tell Kai. And then when it's revealed, he's like, what? And she's like, I'm so sorry. Why are you mad at me? You pretended to be a completely broke bartender / struggling author.
Right.
So their relationship, I didn't enjoy it. The plot wasn't fun, but I will say, and this is where Anna Huang, like, I will not stop. I will not DNF this series because she wrote a fantastic scene where he asks her to read aloud from Jane Austen while he spanks her.
Oh.
And if she can get through a page, she gets a reward.
Ooh, I like that.
It's like that lives rent free in my brain, but the rest of the book can go fuck itself. I know. Sunstone Volume 2 is book number 5, and I'm not really going to go into detail about it because it is our book club book. Volume 1 and Volume 2 of Sunstone by, I'm not going to pronounce his name, Stepan space SejIc. Yeah, I'm not going to pretend I can pronounce that with any dignity. It is a graphic novel, and it is Volume 1 and Volume 2 are book club books. That episode goes live on July 19th. So if you want to hear me talk about a graphic novel, a sapphic BDSM kinky graphic novel with Courtney, come on back on July 19th.
And I can attest, y'all. I think that's the synopsis. It's very, very good. It's very good.
It's good. It's probably one of my most embarrassing moments.
Why?
That episode is probably one of my most embarrassing moments. We're not going to elaborate on that, Michael, because I want to leave them wanting more.
It's a good episode. Y'all need to listen to it. It's really, really good.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so next book, number 6, Blood on the Tide by Katie Robert, and I didn't like it. Ooh. Okay, I know it's very upsetting. I've told Sephie about this already. Synopsis. Lady pirates on an adventure. No, that's it. That's all I got.
That is so.
It sounds great.
It sounds great, but knowing, because I read the first book with you in that series, and knowing how much we both enjoyed that book, it's disappointing a little.
I'm not gonna lie. This book, I was so disappointed by it that it's made me like Hunt on Dark Waters less.
Really?
Yeah, it has.
Oh no.
I know, it's really upsetting. So this is a sapphic pirate romance sequel to Hunt on Dark Waters by Katie Robert. And I love her. I love her. But I felt like there was a lot of telling and not showing. I felt like their intimate moments weren't very long. They weren't as long as I expect them to be, or as detailed as I expect them to be from Katie Robert. And, she's allowed to write whatever she wants. Like, she doesn't want to write a lot of sex. That's fine. It felt so, there were moments when I just didn't get it. I didn't get it. I didn't get them. But there's forced proximity. There's one bed. It's a sapphic pirate romance. So I'm hoping that I will, as this world continues to build, I will appreciate it more.
Yeah.
That's how I'm going to say. But right now, I would not run and get that book for me. Unless you need a matching set.
Right.
And then, of course, do whatever your shelf compels you to do. Deliver Me is book number 7 by Farah Roshan. Okay, this is the quest that I have for anyone listening to this. I need newer books of hers to read. This is a book, I think it was like 2015 or even earlier. It is an early book of hers, and if this is what I'd read first, I would never have continued. But she has continued to write, and she has continued to be published, and people love her. I just happened to read an earlier book of hers because I wanted to, and I'm definitely disappointed. There's an entire plot line I don't understand. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Here, synopsis. 2 doctors in New Orleans who are workplace annoyances end up fake dating, but way too quickly become real dating. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah. So they have like a bad meet cute. Well, they have like an elevator moment, but a bad actual meeting where MMC is a bit of a dick. And so they don't like each other, but then they're thrown together with workplace stuff, and they have to organize this gala together. And so they get to know each other, but he needs a fake girlfriend because his mom is annoying him. So he's setting him up with like weird people. And he's like, I need a girlfriend. So they agree to fake date for her to get some clout with the administration of the hospital, and for him to get his mother off his back.
Right.
I don't know if getting clout with your administration would actually happen if you dated
a coworker,
a doctor. I don't know if that holds water.
I would agree with that statement.
Right? So, I mean, they're not in the same department. She's ER, he's OB, but still. And they start dating very quickly. Like real dating very quickly. There's a whole side plot of this other couple, and we get their points of view. It never comes to anything. Like, it wasn't like, oh, and their drama forces the 2 of them to work together in this crazy. No, they have their baby. And it didn't make any sense why I needed their points of view. The resolution felt really fast. There was a misunderstanding and a third act breakup. It's like everything I dislike was thrown into this book. And moments of like, it was the best sex we've ever had. Great. What about it made it good? Yeah. I didn't hear about that. I wasn't told. I thought she, like, clearly looking at her, that was the best night of her life too.
You don't.
Are we sure?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it was everything that I dislike kind of thrown into a book, but she's continued to write, and I have to assume that she's continued to grow as an author. And so if you have read something of hers, preferably in the last 5 years, I think she came out with a book last month or even this month, then I want to know what I should read of hers next. Okay? Because I'm not giving up on her. If she has been writing for that long, she has got to have some good chops. Next book, number 8, Leather and Lark by Brynne Weaver. I did listen to the audiobook of this one. It was different than Butcher and Blackbird. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm going to start with. Synopsis. Contract killer and multiple deleter are engage in a marriage of convenience to protect those they love. Butcher and Blackbird, while it was certainly a serial killer romance and there was some blood and gore in there, their relationship was lighthearted and funny and silly and cute and fun. Lachlan and Lark have a terrible first meeting. She is what she calls multiple deleter. She is the exact same thing as Sloane. She kills bad people. Right. Usually they are serial predators, sexual predators of young women. And we can understand that based on the history we know about her from Butcher and Blackbird. And we get a little bit more about that here. But she has accidentally deleted someone, and she calls up her stepdad, who's kind of in the mob, and he hires Lachlan to get there, and all he sees is this. And she doesn't, like, her family doesn't know she's a multiple deleter. No one knows. And so all Lachlan is told is this girl ran a guy off the road and he's dead and he's got to clean up after her. So he's like, dumb bitch, which if I ran into someone dressed as, what's her face? Margot Robbie's character in Suicide
Harley
Squad.
Quinn?
What's her name? Harley Quinn. Yeah, if I ran into someone dressed as Harley Quinn on Halloween who's just ran some dude into a lake and doesn't even feel bad about it, I'd be like, wow, what a rich bitch too. So it's terrible. It's a terrible first meeting, and that leads to all of this challenge. But like, their relationship wasn't fun. Their banter wasn't fun. Especially on Lark's side. Like, she was mad and she was mean. Lachlan pretty much from actually meeting her is like, but she's awesome and hot and I like her a lot.
I enjoy the limerick. That was
nice. It was unintentional, but I'm not mad about it. So you basically get Lachlan trying his best to care for her in this weird ass marriage of convenience. It just didn't feel as fun. Like, he felt like he was groveling, which he didn't really need to. And it felt like she was being a bit of a bitch. There are some fun moments, but I'm also a little salty because you can't put pegging in your trigger warning list and not deliver until the bonus chapter.
Yeah. Y'all, Jace was real salty about that to me. Like, the rant was probably a good couple minutes.
Not in your actual book, if it's a bonus chapter, then put an extra trigger warning in the bonus. Also, I don't know why pegging needed to be in the trigger warnings. Like, I don't understand that, but that's just me.
I don't think it needs to be a trigger warning. It's just a kink. It's a preference. It's not necessarily
like in the first book, they had cock warming as a trigger warning. And I was like, I don't know what this is. Oh, I do know what this is. I've just never heard it called that. Why is this in the trigger warning?
Wait, in Butcher and Blackbird, they had cock warming as a trigger?
Yeah. What? In the trigger warning.
Again, that's a kink. It's a preference. What?
Though they do I like the traffic lights. They do talk about traffic lights in this book. That's their system, which is great.
System to go by. Especially,
I also.
I was just gonna say, especially if you're starting out, but that was my little BDSM community slide in. Anyways, continue.
No, they're good. I also wonder if I will like it better if I read this book, because every single time this actress laughed, and apparently Lark giggles a lot in this book, I wanted to rip my own ears out. It felt fake. It felt forced. No, thank you. And I also read much faster than I listen. So when it had chapters in the Phantom, the bad guy's voice, I just turned off the chapter and went and read it. And I don't want to listen to this dude. He's weird.
Yikes.
Anyway, let's get into some good stuff. Number 9 was Trial of the Sun Queen. Oh my goodness, this book made me so happy. It is, oh my gosh, it made me so happy. Okay, it is fantasy with brown people and a shadow daddy.
Okay, I'm enjoying that.
Okay. Oh my gosh. So the funny part about this is I bought this book because I liked the cover at the beginning of May. I bought it at the beginning of May. And then I found out that Nisha J. Tooley is going to be at Steamy Lit. And so I went, okay, I've really got to read this. And I read it in 2 days. And then when I finished it, I realized she was actually going to be at a signing at a local bookstore, the last chapter in Chicago. And I went to the signing. Oh my gosh, she's so cool. She's so cool, y'all. But it is, oh my gosh, it's so fun. It's Trial of the Sun Queen, literally. Okay, synopsis.
You did that already.
I did that already. But okay, I'm going into more detail. She is, FMC is a prisoner, literally in prison, has been since she was maybe 12. She is stolen from prison and taken to be a contestant in the Trial of the Sun Queen, basically to be the next queen of a neighboring kingdom, of which she is woefully unprepared. And this is a trial. It's people in life and death situations who are also wearing ball gowns. It's not warrior. It's not fighting. You are trying to seduce and win the hand and the heart of this dude. And you can tell something weird is going on. And I will say it's because she put the point of views as our FMC lore and Nadir, who is not the Sun King. The Sun King is Atlas, but we're getting Nadir, Shadow Daddy's point of view. So you know something fucked up's going to happen.
Oh, ooh, I love that.
Yeah, so I loved the first book. There are 2 more out right now. 4th one, final one, comes out in, I think, November. And I went to this signing and I'm thinking to myself, oh, maybe I should just read these next 2 because I'm so excited. It was so good. But the emotion that these people were showing about the cliffhanger on book 3, I don't know if I could handle that. They were just feeling so many feelings about it. I think I have to wait to read the next 2 closer to when the 4th one comes out because I don't know if I can handle not knowing. So that's me. But it was so great. Number 10 is 2 Scoops of Hellfire by Kimberly Lemming because she has my heart and soul. And when I meet her, I will cry or faint. Or both. It's going to happen. Or both. This is a novella that the synopsis is, while picking up her pandemic hobby of baking, Daisy accidentally summons a demon from hell by writing runes in the butter.
Oh my God.
And then they bone.
I love that so much.
Y'all, this is a novella. It is so short. You could read this in an hour, but that is the plot. Demon from hell shows up and he goes, what is going on here? It looks like my runes are written in. Is that butter on the wall? What the damn hell? This kitchen is a disaster. Daisy is a disaster. And then they bone. That's it.
Amazing.
It also, in that moment when she was talking about the pandemic hobby and the isolation of it, made me think about, when I was feeling all those things during the real height of the pandemic. And also how if I had read this story, it would have made me feel just a little bit better.
Yeah.
So I feel like it healed a part of my soul.
I mean, so because my life is crazy, I do not read as much as Jace, y'all. I don't. A lot of this stuff I'm hearing with you for the first time. But hearing that makes me want to go get that novella so I can read it.
It was just fun. And it was also just so low stress. I found that a lot of the novellas that I'm reading or that I find are dark, or maybe just the last couple ones that I've read, there's a dark situation. No, this was so lighthearted.
Oh, I love that.
It was just like, oh, it made me so happy. Next book is The Fiancé Farce by Alexandria Bellefleur. And I remember when this came out, I put it aside because I dislike this cover very, very much. This cover feels very aggressive to me. Their faces look mad at each other. And even though they're wearing pink dresses, I don't want to stare at two mad faces. But it's come so highly recommended, and Alexandria Belfer is going to be at a conference. So I went, fuck it, I'll buy it. I'll not buy it. I rented it from my library. And it is, here's the synopsis. Fake fiance, sapphic, revenge on an ex.
Okay.
There we go. Gemma and Tansy engage in a fake fiance situation so that Gemma can inherit her family's media company. And they end up getting revenge on Gemma's cousin / Tansy's ex-fling from high school, who probably should be in jail. Let's acknowledge this. Well, he took pictures of her when they were together in high school. She's underage. They're naked and showed them around. He didn't, I don't think he posted them on the internet, but like it got emailed around. Like, you distributed child pornography. Like, no. So, but then he lied and said that she was sending them to him like unprompted, and that she was obsessed with him.
That still doesn't make it really okay to share them. Like, even if it's never okay.
It's real bad. No, real bad. But they were cute. I will say that it really was a fun romp. Gemma is so high energy. She's got that former party girl vibe, but she's not really. And Tansy is a quiet, bookish woman who has a backbone of steel.
Oh, nice.
And they have a really fun connection. There's chemistry, there's banter. And this was, I know, shock, an example of outside forces causing a breakup that I understood, where I went, it's not them, it's not a miscommunication, did anything wrong, but like shit goes down and they have to separate in order to come back together. And both of them make moves pretty much at the same time to get together again, almost gifts of the Magi-ish, except everybody gets what they want. Which is late.
That's what everybody wants.
Not everybody. We'll get to that at the end of this episode.
Well, and that's true. That's a cover statement. Great. I should not everybody wants to get laid. I retract it.
It's okay. Not everybody wants to get laid. One of the things that I did wish is that there was more explicit spice, because there's a lot of great banter and a lot of great flirt and a lot of great chemistry talking about it. And then I wanted more. She's got another book. She got another book out, Truly Madly Deeply, that people seem to be really into. Other thing about this, and I just want to make sure that it's stated in as many places as possible, is these two women are not gay. Yay! One is bi. Anything one calls herself like pansexual. And so just because two women, female presenting humans, are in a relationship with each other does not mean you can assume things about their sexuality. You do not erase people's sexuality because of your assumptions. And so I really appreciated that their sexuality was explicitly stated in this book so that it couldn't be assumed that they're gay. There's nothing wrong with being gay at all, but
it's the assumption.
It's often bisexuality or those other, the assumptions, bisexuality, pansexuality, those kind of more gender encompassing or identity encompassing sexualities can sometimes get erased in the conversations. And that isn't kind and that isn't fair. And I will do my best not to perpetuate that.
As a bisexual woman, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yes. Doesn't matter what person you're dating. You are still bisexual.
Exactly.
Still bisexual. Even if your partner is male. It's just the way it works. Okay. Book number 12. Dark City Omega by Elizabeth Stevens. I love this book so much. I loved it so much. I pre-ordered special editions from this author. It's the only pre-order I've made for Stimulant. Only pre-order I've made for Stimulant is from this author. I know. Very few people have special editions. And so I'm like, well, if I'm just going to buy my own editions and have you sign it, which I did actually for Fiancé Farce. I did buy my own copy and I want it signed. But I also want more queer on my shelves. So I want to be able to look at my beautiful shelves and say, this is a queer book and I read it and I liked it and it's signed. But I never have to look at the cover.
Just the spine.
Just put a post-it for their faces. It's just their faces. Honestly, it's the same situation in Truly Madly Deeply, so I think that's just her thing. Okay, but we've already talked about it. Dark City Omega is a fantasy Omegaverse with brown people. Ooh. This author is black. Her main character is black. They're not all white. I loved it. The lore is interesting on how werewolves exist and how their hierarchies are, and Omega, everybody's basically a beta, and then at some point maybe you transition to an alpha, little bigger, little more power, a berserker, usually in charge of a city state, very, very rare, or an Omega who not has to culturally, her body is compelled to obey alphas and really berserkers. But Omegas have magic.
Nobody else does? Just Omegas?
It's just Omegas.
I like that.
Just Omegas, and they all have different kinds of magic. I was really brought into the story. Echo is on the run because she was living in a beta house, transitioned to an Omega, and had to flee. Or literally the alphas and the berserkers would have killed everyone in the beta settlement she was living in to get to her. So she has been on the run in this desolate, dystopian shitstorm of a land that basically nobody can survive in except her. She's been there 6 weeks. And it's insane. And when Adam finally comes upon her and his future was foretold that his Omega would be in that area with red hair, and she has red hair. And he finds her and he gives her the bite, and it goes horribly wrong because the bite is supposed to be consensual. And his wasn't, because she saw him as a berserker in his berserker form, and she went, fuck that, I will not obey you, and stabbed herself in the thigh, hoping to bleed out and die before she could be claimed. I know, she's amazing. Echo's amazing. And he, in the attempt to save her, gives her the bite that's supposed to heal her, but their bond goes horribly wrong.
Of course.
And the story was great. The twist was fun. I kind of called the twist, but you know what, y'all? Sometimes I think these twists are so obvious that the authors want me to, even a person like me, to understand them. I am not good at understanding the twists of things. I'm not good at it. Like Knives Out shocked me. But
and I'm over here and I called it halfway through the movie. So I'm like...
I was like, you can't be serious. Not Chris Evans.
Oh, funny.
Morning Glass Onion, I watched it with a friend, and they, every single time Edward Norton did something dumb, commented on it. I'm like, just let the movie happen. And then at the reveal, the look they gave me,
they're just like, duh. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
I know. They spent so much time literally arguing, fighting, and being mad at each other that they didn't have enough sex. The sex scenes were good. The first time they have sex, she literally talked about, sorry, I say literally a lot. Elizabeth Stevens wrote about the figure 8 grindy motion he did that stimulated her clit. And I went, I can picture it. I want it. I believe it. I love you. It was so well written and it was so realistic, and I appreciated it so much. It's at this moment a duology, and I ordered both books. I haven't read the second one yet, but oh my gosh, Dark City Omega, if you are into Omegaverse, whoo, it's so good. There is nodding. I also can't deny you that fact.
I feel like it's kind of a necessity if you have an Omegaverse, just a little bit. I know there are Omegaverses that don't have nodding, but it's for the most part, it's it's a part of it. But yeah.
It's kind of a part of it, but I just have to make sure you know that it's there. Book number 13, Business or Pleasure by Rachel Lynn Solomon. I felt like this book was written for me. After a terrible one-night stand, Chandler discovers her new ghostwriting client is her one-night stand.
Of course.
Finn.
Of course.
After revealing to him one night what she actually thought of their encounter, he asks for her to teach him how to be a better lover.
Okay.
It was so good. It was so good. So it's basically sex school.
But sex school where the female is teaching as opposed to the kind of the norm in that where it's the male.
Oh, except it's not, I'm going to help you experience things you've never experienced before. It's, I'm literally going to teach you where the clitoris is. I had read, I think I read this book maybe a week or two after we did the clit episode. And if I had read this before, this book would have absolutely been in that episode. So if you don't necessarily want to read Come As You Are, which you should, but if you don't want to, read Business or Pleasure because it teaches you everything you need to know about the clit.
If you want it in novelization form, read
if you want it in novelization form, read Business or Pleasure. It was really wonderful to watch, and their intimacy progresses. So they have just a tragically terrible one-night stand. Every moment of it was so, from the moment they entered the hotel room, you're like, oh God, what? Stop this. Can we? No, bad.
Was this one moment where you're like, no, fade to black, please fade to black?
This was one of those where I did read the synopsis, so I knew it was going to happen, but I didn't expect the comedy of errors that was going to be this one night stand, which includes, things that I've done, trip and fall. I had to scratch my back to prove it, but also bad dirty talk, rushing through foreplay.
Oh, no.
A comic amount, and they started off so well. They went and they got condoms and lube, and I went, yes, lube, I love it for a one night stand, amazing. But then he accidentally squirts out a comedic amount of lube, and it's strawberry vanilla scented. I hate scented lubricants. I think they're gross. So she's talking about like the scent just enveloping her in this puddle of lube on the bed, and then she ends up faking an orgasm to like get out of it and sneaking out of the hotel room.
Oh no,
it's so bad. It's so bad.
That's like a nightmare of extreme proportions. Oh man.
It's so bad. And I'm like, I would still not have faked that orgasm. But I get it for the narrative. It's interesting because then they go back really to the beginnings of intimacy, including conversation, talking, just making out. They masturbate in front of each other.
Considering that she's teaching him how to be a better lover, that is A+ move, because he's basically watching her give herself pleasure, and then that's chef's kiss. That's amazing.
It was great. So they masturbate. It also felt, it was fun to watch. Their banter was good. They're on a road trip. They're not on a road trip together, but he does a lot of conventions. And so she's following him from convention to convention to convention. So they're also staying with each other in these hotels. I think there's a one-bed situation, because of course there's a one-bed situation.
Of course there is. Yeah.
Of course there is. And it was a lot of fun. Both of these characters are Jewish, and while it doesn't play into the story at large, it was nice to have those moments of two people connecting about their culture and their experience that we don't often read about in cis-het white romance novels. They're not often, they're usually, if any religion is stated, it's Christianity. And so it was nice to see it's always nice to see two characters of any minority where their minority doesn't play into, it's not about the plot. The plot isn't about them being a minority. It's just who they are. And so that was really lovely to watch. There are quite a few queer people around them. There are people of color around them. So even though they are cishet white, the cast of characters in this book is diverse.
I like that.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. I loved it so much. I wrote a blog post on it. You can go into my deep dive thoughts later. Like go to the website. Also some great quotes. Yes. Okay. Book number 14, Black Love Matters. This is not a fiction book, but it's about romance fiction, like romance genre. And so I'm including this because I think y'all need to go read this. It's edited by Jessica P. Pride. It is a collection of essays about Black romance and what Black romance means in this moment when I'm speaking to you and in this book is two main characters, two or more. What this means in the book and in this conversation right now is the love interests are Black, not interracial, Black. The history of repressing Black love stories, both in traditional publishing, from not picking up authors, in the way that they are marketed by not showing two Black characters in an embrace on covers, to how all of this shit works is heartbreaking and really important. It's really important that we look at the oppression and the bullshit that marginalized communities go through, and we meet them where they are, and we can look at it and go, I see this. I see you. This bullshit will not stand. And what it helped me do is, number one, feel lots of things. I'm not lying when I said I cried multiple times while reading this book because of so many things that I never would have thought of as being taken away from them, or hurdles to overcome, or bullshit they had to deal with. And my eyes being opened, and also seeing the necessity for Black love stories to be there from all aspects of these authors who participated, from Adriana Herrera to Kosovo Jackson to Beverly Jenkins, the histories that I didn't know about because I was not reading in the 90s when Arabesque, which was a Black love or Black imprint, existed and then was purchased and then was dismantled, is so heartbreaking. And it made me more aware of what it is that I see, what it is that I'm consuming, what it is that I'm looking for, what is being marketed to me, what is deemed palatable by social media, by book talk, by Bookstagram, and the bullshit that will not stand. Yeah. That is so not okay with me as a human. And I cannot recommend this book enough. Black Love Matters. Like, seriously. Book number 15, Sinner's Isle by Angela Montoya. This is pirates, fantasy pirates, not real pirates, in that it is in a fantasy land and not in our world. There is magic also. Here is the synopsis. Magical woman and pirate prince fight to break her free from the patriarchal oppressive system that is about to buy her and bind her to a man of her not choosing. Also, Shadow Mommy.
It. Yes.
Shadow Mommy. I'm going to be fully transparent. I don't really understand the Shadow Daddy situation. I get it. There are like people who love Shadow Daddies, but I don't keep track of Shadow Daddies. But that word, that title is great. But I'm going to go with she's a Shadow Mommy then. This book is really a fight against the patriarchy. It is a fantastical lens at the bullshit that women have to deal with, and how the church, especially, I believe Angela Montoya is Latina. And so if you are Latina, the Catholic Church has a lot of influence on the culture of your country for the most part. I won't say every single country, but I'm going to go with most of them. And you can see the fight against that system and against that bullshit that she puts forth in this book. Well, pretty much only women are born with magic, and they are sent to this island to be trained, and only if their powers are wanted or desirable are they then purchased by someone from the nobility, and then using blood magic bound to that person who then controls them and their powers. Oh, and if that person dies, they also die.
Of course, because they're bound by blood, which
so there's side
like
plots
I have
and
the
love.
skeevies just from that.
It's so gross. It's so gross. And oh my gosh. But there's a lot of Spanish in this book in ways that I felt was really accessible. The first couple times I was immediately hitting that translate button on my e-reader. But Angela Montoya did an incredible job of giving the context for what she was saying in Spanish. And after, I learned to trust that the next sentence would explain it, I was able to go through the whole book. And so while I understand that this book might not have been written for me because that was not I did not grow up in the Catholic Church, and that is not my culture, and that is not my oppression, I really appreciated that I could read this book and be right in there with these characters.
Right.
There's also queer around them. I mean, pretty much everyone's a person of color. They're all described as having brown skin. They're not white. Yay. But best friends for both Mariano and Rosalinda are queer, which is amazing. The only problem is there's no spice. There's no spice. I know.
Oh my gosh.
It's really upsetting. No, I'm not, because I mean, I'm fine. They get on the boat at the end. They're leaving the island to, go rebel against the corrupt forces in the government. And, but it really it was like 0.5. I'm like, okay, I'm assuming that you made love because you said you wanted to, and it faded to black, but it faded to black. It's faded black.
Oh, that's your really least favorite. You hate that. You hate that so much.
You know me so well. Oh my God. Then we have another sexless book. Not sexless, another fucking fade to black book. This is If the Shoe Fits, number 16 by Julie Murphy. And here's the synopsis. Cinderella retelling commissioned by Disney.
What?
So Disney commissioned this series called Meant to Be. It is currently 4 books. By the book, If the Shoe Fits, Kiss the Girl, and Tangled. Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, Little Mermaid, and Rapunzel. And they are commissioned by Disney. Each one is written by a different well-known author. So Jasmine Guillory did By the Book. Julie Murphy, who also wrote Dumplin', did If the Shoe Fits. Zoe Cordova wrote Kiss the Girl. And then I believe it's Christina Lauren who wrote Tangled. So there is a fade to black. But the actual plot of this is Cindy is plus-sized and ends up on a dating show with Henry, her Prince Charming. Here's where I'm a bit of a hypocrite. Uh-oh. This book is missing a lot of the things that make Cinderella a story, and I was totally fine with it. And if you remember last month, I was not okay with it.
Yeah.
But there are so many other things. Number one, this is written by Disney. Also having read By the Book, I understand that this isn't necessarily a Cinderella retelling, but an inspired by Cinderella story. So she is obsessed with shoes. She has a dead mom and a dead dad, a stepmother and 2 stepsisters, except their relationship with all of them is, while complicated, really, really great and supportive. So that hitting a bit of your stomach where you're like, I'm about to watch her be abused, doesn't happen. The abuse really happens, not abuse, but the emotional issues are the ones that we all deal with. And she's on a dating show. Literally, it's like 20 women competing for the same man. Is that not a ball? She does have a gown. It's by Dolce & Gabbana. But what Cinderella, the traditional story, doesn't have is a woman who pulls herself up and fixes shit herself. And this does. Cindy really takes ownership of what does she want out of life, what does she want out of a partner, and how is she going to hold everyone accountable to that. Even in the going on to the dating show, which her stepmother, the producer of this dating show, doesn't want her to do because she's plus sized and doesn't want people to judge her. And Cindy goes, well, if you're just there because you don't want people to be mean to me and you're trying to protect me, I don't like that. I don't feel good. That makes me feel like you believe I have something to hide. And so I really enjoyed this book. While they spend a night together, and there's a very empowering moment about that, it's fucking fade to black.
Okay. But it's
so I had Business
commissioned by Disney.
All of them are fade to black. All of them are fade to black. I've only read by the book. They're by Disney.
This is the same company who only allows one kiss per princess movie. Period. Like, that's it. Think back. One kiss.
No. Technically, Tiana has more than one.
Okay, I knew it was going to be Tiana that you brought up because I was thinking it at the same moment. I was like, okay, no, Tiana does have more than one, technically.
She does have more than one. She does. But he's a frog. So
he's a frog.
So I don't know if it counts. Wow. So anyway, I fixed my smut slump by reading American Queen next, book number 17 by Sierra Simone. Okay, I had this book. Oh God, there's so many secrets and so many spoilers. 10-year tale of longing comes to fruition between Greer and Ash, who is also the president
of the United States. Okay, my next question, and if you can't reveal it, does Greer work for him?
No. Okay, so Greer's a lecturer at Georgetown. No.
Okay.
She meets him when she's 16, and she's like totally obsessed with him and writes him all these dirty, filthy fucking emails. And at 7, and he never responds because good man, he's not 16. He's 26. He's 10 years older than her.
Okay.
He never responds. But she writes him an email, and her 17th birthday, she gets drunk, and it shared like, oh girl, I don't know if you know that's kink, but that's kink. Like, I want to crawl to you. I want to crawl to some. Yep. Oh my God, it's so hot. And then this book does a really good job of going from present day to past and kind of skipping around the timelines in order to reveal the story. But the actual book starts on her wedding day to Ash. And at the end of that little intro says, I have bite marks on my thigh and I see a hickey on his best man's neck that I know he gave him. And you're like, what? I know. So I guess I don't ruin anything because the book starts with like what is happening here.
That's the starting point. That's not really a spoiler. So
right. So chronologically, she meets him when she's 16. They have like one kiss, and then she's like, I'm 16. She emails him for a year. He never responds. When she's 21, she sees him for the second time. He's engaged. She's sad because she's kept a torch for him, and also because there's like a weird connection. There's like a very much a connection. Runs into his best friend Embry, loses her virginity to Embry that night. Embry ghosts her 5 years after that. So this is now 10 years after the first thing. She's working in Georgetown. Ash is the president. Embry is the vice president.
Oh my
Embry
God.
shows up and is like, Ash wants to see you. And so they get together, Greer and Ash, and it is kink from the very first moment. It is that is so good. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. But like there's the weird history between her and Embry, and then we discover there's a history between Ash and Embry, and we also discover some other crazy ass secrets going on in their life, and then it ends on a fucking cliffhanger. It is a trilogy, and I've just heard that I will be weeping at the end of it.
Oh no.
But I do own the next 2 books. Okay. Number 18. You'll be so proud of me, Sephie. I read Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. That was the book that Jess almost ruined my potential friendship with Jess.
Yes.
I did. I read it. She was so bad. Okay. Synopsis. Delilah Green doesn't care. Delilah goes back to her hometown to photograph her stepsister's wedding shenanigans. She meets her estranged stepsister's best friend, Claire, and they hit it off. I don't know what the fuck was going on in my life when I tried to read this the first time, because in my brain it was squishy and soft and just completely unappealing. And I did not get that this time.
No.
Like, there is something, I think what it is, and this is me not liking this act. There was a thing that the two of them did together, and I do not enjoy that. Mm-hmm. So I understand why. I probably at that point was like, I don't know if this is for me. But I also found it less awkward than the first time I read it. And when I reread this, I realized I got pretty fucking far in this book. But yeah, this was a delightful book. One of the things that happens a lot in MF romances is a dude comes in on his fucking high horse to save the woman.
Yeah.
And Claire is a single mom dealing with a historically shitty ex-partner. And I feel like in every other version of that situation, the love interest is going to ride in and save her from her terrible ex. And it wasn't. You know, Claire can deal with her ex the way that Claire's going to deal with her ex. And Delilah is the person she's with, not the person who's going to solve all her problems. She's also not a secret billionaire, you know, like she's a photographer. So watching the two of them come together and figure shit out and flirt and hide and deal with some really heavy emotional stuff associated with this wedding and the shenanigans that they are. There's a secret side plot that they're all trying to, Claire and Delilah and the other best friend, Iris, are trying to break up the stepsister and her horrible, horrible fiance. So that is comedic hijinks. And I am now curious about the other 2 books in this series, because I believe each of this trio of friends, not Delilah, but Astrid, her stepsister, Claire, the love interest, and Iris, the third friend, all get their own book. I'm very curious to see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is another instance of Claire is bisexual, and it's not erased. She's not like, oh, I'm suddenly gay. No, she's bi. She's bi. She has a kid with a dude, and she talks about how he's attractive and she's still attracted to him. Doesn't matter that she's, also fucking a woman. Like, she dates both.
Yes.
So that bisexuality is really well represented.
So does this mean your friendship with Jess is okay?
It is.
Okay, good.
We've slid into each other's DMs. Just 3 more books. So book number 19 is Rainbow Sprinkles by Pepper North.
Okay, first off, author's name with the book title. That's amazing.
Oh, just you wait until the synopsis. Baker Ellie engages in a big little relationship with her landlord Garrett.
Oh, that face is amazing. I so wish you guys could see the face Jace just made.
Okay, maybe I'll grab the video clip and post it somewhere. But okay, y'all, number 1, Big Little Dynamic is a kink. Go research that.
Yes.
Go fuck up your search history with that.
And don't just settle on the first Wikipedia thing that pops up on your Google search. Actually do some research on it. Don't just take the first search result as the gospel, please.
No, go if you listen to Pink Kink or you've never listened, you're a podcast person, obviously you're listening to this, go to Pink Kink podcast. They have it in their definitions episode. I believe they have an episode or two on Big Little Dynamics. This is part of what I believe is a at least 15 book series of novellas.
Oh,
but they call this, I believe every single one is a Daddy Little situation. They call it Daddy Little or something like that. I'm going with the term for the whole kink, which is Big Little.
Mm-hmm.
And in this one, it's a Daddy Little situation. Okay. Now, here's what I'm going to say. I understand this kink on a macro level.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is this is written for people who enjoy that kink and know more about that kink than I do. And so even though it was a novella, I was like, I need more conversation. I need to know more, because is it normal for you to just go over to his house and it's totally fine that he puts you in a crib? I don't know. You didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
And there are also so many ways that you can have a Big Little dynamic.
Yes.
And I felt like Ellie's little, when we first meet her, is older than Garrett wants her to be when he brings her back to his nursery. And so that confused me. I wish that had been a conversation. So like, I thought she was more like 7 or 8, but in his nursery, he asks her to wear a diaper. And I'm like, that's younger.
Yeah.
So
that's much younger.
That's much younger, and that's still within like the play aspect of it. Just, I needed a little bit more, but also for someone who engages in this kink, maybe you don't need more and it makes total sense to you.
Right.
But this is another happier novella. It's maybe around 200 pages. So very quick, and it sets up, everyone in this world wants to be a little or a big.
The world that creates in my brain is very amusing.
Oh my God. Like the cop that shows up because they're like annoying people at her bakery is like, yeah, I'm a daddy. And I'm like, okay. What? I mean, he doesn't say it like that, but like, basically.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's so funny. But like it's well written. I think it shows it in a very positive light. There's a lot of conversation about consent, especially when they move into intimacy, as opposed. I wish there were more conversations about their kink specifically, but when it comes to intimacy and taking things, and having sex, they did a really good job with the consent conversation around that.
That's good.
Okay. Yeah. Then we have Thirsty, book number 20 by Mia Hopkins. It is the first of a trilogy, and it is, I am not going to lie, probably the only MF romance novel I've ever read that is entirely from the male perspective.
You don't get those very often.
I am truly trying to, excluding maybe a novella or two.
Right.
I mean, like, you've got like Hades in the Scarlet St. Clair, but Persephone's book came out first. This is just, we don't get any female perspective.
This is the first story, and it's all from his point of view.
All from his point of view. We don't even get a bonus chapter from her point of view at all. I loved that.
I love that so much.
It was so fun. It is Sal's coming out of prison, hoping to escape his gang history, connects with his childhood crush, Vanessa.
Okay.
And that's a terrible synopsis, but I feel like I don't know any tropes that fit that overarching story. It's not mafia. There's gang presence from out there in LA. They're both Latinx humans and the community that they're in, and he's trying to escape the gang life. He was inside for 5 years. His brother's inside, and he ends up crashing in not her Vanessa, but her grandmother, because she lives with her grandmother's garage.
Okay.
And they see each other and they have insane chemistry and this like really hard push and pull for him, because if the gang comes calling, he has to answer. But everything that he wants is outside of that life. And Vanessa got pregnant and married another person in the gang who was either killed or OD'd. And so she has a terrible history associated with the gang. And so it just really pushes and pulls him. And at first you think that he's going to go for this kind of career, and then it pivots into a totally different type of career. And I loved that. It was unexpected. It really it just was a lot of, the book was heavy at points, but it surprised me in ways that I didn't think. A very small, it's pretty thin. You can't see it. It's just down here. But it's on the shorter end of a book. And I'm really excited because I do have the other two books. I do have them.
I'm not even surprised.
It's called East Side Breweries.
I'm not even surprised by that statement anymore.
You don't know me.
It's a far cry from like the last 10 minutes ago. You know me so well.
It's true. I am an enigma. Okay, final book of June was The Romantic Agenda by Claire Kahn. Oh my goodness. This is a book written by a Black woman. And I haven't looked into Claire Kahn enough because I know she has written a lot and I don't really care. But I'm just glad that the story is getting told. Our lead is asexual. This is a romance novel about an asexual Black woman.
Oh my gosh, that makes me so happy.
I don't know what else I need to tell you except the book is about a Black asexual woman, but there is also my best friend's wedding style to this plot.
My best friend's wedding?
And a bit of fake dating. My best friend's wedding.
So it's like my best friend's wedding and the wedding date all rolled into one.
The wedding date, I think, is a hooker situation, isn't it?
With
Deborah Messing.
Yeah, but he's playing her boyfriend.
Oh, that's not the situation. So she's a Black asexual woman and she's in love with her Black asexual best friend who he's dating this new person. He'd had an engagement break off and literally the ex-fiance was like, it's because of your friendship with her. And you're like, whoa, that's fucking heavy. And also, you a bitch.
Yeah.
Like, who says that?
And a little insecure.
Yeah. So insecure. So Joy is our FMC. Malcolm is the best friend. He starts dating someone new and he invites her to go away with him for a weekend, but she says she wants to bring her good friend. And why don't we bring Joy so that I can meet her so that there's no weirdness? It's very strange how they all end up in this cabin in the woods together.
Which, could be the start of a horror movie, but thankfully it is not.
She literally says it, and she's like, okay, if this is the start of a horror movie, I'm basically going to get murdered. Because even though I am a virgin, I'm also Black. And woman.
And woman.
Yes. I'm going to get murdered. Yeah. And so this book, I loved it so much. I think the conversations about sexuality were really important. The spectrum of Ace, the experience of Ace. Also, she and Fox is the other best friend.
Okay.
Kind of say, oh, we're here so that we can be set up with each other. And the Malcolm, the best friend, and the person he's now dating can have their romantic time. And so they decide to kind of fake date, but they don't really fake date. They're not saying they're dating.
Gotcha.
To each other they are, but they, and this is where it gets really beautiful. They have conversations about consent, they have a conversation around the consent regarding physical touch of any kind, hand holding, hugging, arm around the shoulder.
Wow.
They decide on a safe word incognito system in case it goes too far for either of them. It is so great.
I love that so much.
Oh my God, this book made me so happy because also, just because you're asexual doesn't mean you are undeserving of romantic love.
Exactly.
Asexual and aromantic are different. And you can be asexual and search for and want and deserve a partner. And I loved it. I loved it so much I bought it. No one is surprised.
No one is surprised.
But I have a good friend who is ace, and I want her to read this book.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And oh my gosh. It was such a good book to end it on. There is no sex in this book, and I am 100% okay with that. It was 100% okay with that for me.
It was a good representation of the ace.
Of Joy's ace. I have a quote.
Yeah.
Literally, I have a quote from the book. I'm going to share it.
Okay.
I'm going to share this quote. Every ace is different. Some are like Malcolm, who experience zero sexual attraction, but still enjoy sex more than any human I know.
Mm-hmm.
Some are like me, who also don't experience sexual attraction, but haven't quite figured out the rest of it. And some are elsewhere, everything in between, beyond it, and beside it.
Yes.
I loved it.
100%. Mm-hmm. That quote is brilliant.
And so one of the things that I really made a point of doing this month, y'all, is picking books that I wanted to read and whose stories or whose authors were people I was really interested in. And that made the reading experience feel so much more enjoyable, so much better. And every time I picked up a book, I was excited to read it. So thank you, Sephie. Mm-hmm. Thank you all for getting through this. And I can't wait to be back next month to share what I read in July. Bye.
Bye.
That's it for today, y'all. This has been a 3 Paws Productions podcast. Our producer is Sephie. Michael Achenbach is our patient editor. Our theme song is written and performed by Diana Weishauer. You can find show notes and so much more at jacereadsromance.com. That's JAYCE Reads Romance. Follow along on TikTok and Instagram at Jace Reads Romance. If you'd like to ask a question or share a story for the podcast, call and leave a message at 661-JACE-RR. That's 661-529-2377. Or send an email to jace@jacereadsromance.com. Finally, like and subscribe so you can get every episode when they drop. You can also leave us a review to help others find us. And remember, this is Jace holding space for you.